The Traders' War by Charles Stross, including The Clan Corporate and The Merchants' War, read by Kate Redding.
The Clan Corporate, Book 3 of The Merchant Princes, by Charles Stross. Read for you by Kate Redding. One. Tied down. Nail lacquer, the woman called Helga reflected as she paused in the antechamber, always did two things to her. It reminded her of her mother, and it made her feel like a rebellious little girl. She examined the fingertips of her left hand, turning them this way and that in search of minute imperfections in the early afternoon sunlight slanting through the huge window behind her. There weren't any. The maidservant who had painted them for her had poor nails, cracked and brittle from hard work. Her own, in contrast, were pearlescent and glossy, and about a quarter-inch longer than she was comfortable with. There seemed to be a lot of things that she was uncomfortable with these days. She sighed quietly and glanced at the door. The door opened at that moment. Was it coincidence, or was she being watched? Liveried footmen inclined their heads as another spoke. "Milady, the Duchess bids you enter. She is waiting in the day-room." Helga swept past them with a brief nod, more acknowledgment of their presence than most of her rank would bother with, and paused to glance back down the hallway as her servants, a lady-in-waiting, a court butler, and two hard-faced impassive bodyguards, followed her. "Wait in the hall," she told the guards. "You can accompany me, but wait at the far end of the room," she told her attendant ingenue. Lady Cara nodded meekly. She'd been slow to learn that Helga bore an uncommon dislike for having her conversations eavesdropped on. There had been an unfortunate incident some weeks ago, and the lady-in-waiting had not yet recovered her self-esteem. The hall was perhaps 60 feet long and wide enough for a royal entourage. The walls, paneled in imported oak, were occupied by window bays, interspersed with oil paintings, and a few more recent daguerreotypes of noble ancestors, the scoundrels and skeletons cluttering up the family tree. Uniformed servants waited beside each door. Helga paced across the rough marble tiles, her spine rigid and her shoulders set defensively. At the end of the hall, an equerry wearing the polished half-armor and crimson breeches of his calling bowed, then pulled the tasseled bell-pull beside the double doors. "The Countess Helga Volthorold de Hjorth." The doors opened, ushering Countess Helga inside, leaving servants and guards to cool their heels at the threshold. The day-room was built to classical proportions, but built large in every dimension. 4 windows, each 12 feet high, dominated the south wall, overlooking the regimented lushness of the gardens that surrounded the palace. The ornate plasterwork of the ceiling must have occupied a master and his journeyman for a year. The scale of the architecture dwarfed the merely human furniture, so that the chaise longue the Duchess reclined on, and the spindly rococo chair beside it, seemed like the discarded toy furniture of a baby giantess. The Duchess herself looked improbably fragile, gray hair growing out in intricately coiffed coils, face powdered to the complexion of a china doll, her body lost in a court gown of black lace over burgundy velvet. But her eyes were bright and alert, and knowing. Helga paused before the Duchess. With a little moue of concentration, she essayed a curtsy. "Your Grace, I am happy to see you," she said haltingly in Hochsprache. Oh, damn! The latter words slipped out in her.
Sample complete. Ready to continue?